Mr. C, silverfox, with you here from Cartagena, Colombia. Just wanted to respond to another thing that's coming up regularly on the WhatsApp group, something that I think it's really frustrating to me. I think it's really disrespectful to women, something that I think would be addressed well in a video. So I wanted to talk to you about it. We're going to talk about hypergamy, basically what it is, what it's not. And essentially why it's still a good thing, as most things are. Things are usually a good thing when you have the right frame and the right perspective. So I wanted to talk to you. If you haven't been, well, first off, if you haven't been added to the WhatsApp group, you can respond to Tusk below or get a hold of me. We can get you added if you want. And then secondly, some of this is taken from Jordan Peterson's stuff. He's great. If you haven't followed his stuff before, I highly recommend it. Really good understanding. He's a clinical psychologist from Canada. Great understanding of women, men. Brilliant, brilliant man. Follow him. You should. You'll be better for him. So, hypergamy. Hypergamy is basically, it's usually, well, I think it's pretty much only seen in women, but it's basically marrying up. It's basically always going for someone better than yourself on the social ladder. Women tend to date sideways or upward on the social ladder, whereas men tend to go sideways or downwards. Because for men, it doesn't really matter if the woman has a lot of social status or has a lot of money. If she's incredible, she's beautiful, he really likes her, he's willing to go for her even if she's, it's kind of classic Cinderella story, he's willing to go for her even if she's from a different social class. Women are quite different in that regard. So a lot of times it comes across, when hypergamy comes up, it comes across as a really anti-woman discussion. The extreme version of this would be if you see any kind of incel bullshit that you read online about how horrible women are because of blah 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 blah, from some extremely weak males that have very low egos and they just feel the need to put women down for it. That's not what hypergamy is. Hypergamy is essentially, if you go back in the evolutionary history of mankind, 6 million, 7 million years ago, whatever, we diverged from chimpanzees because basically chimpanzees, one of the main reasons, chimpanzees, the females are not selective with who they mate with. They'll mate with anybody. The males, the dominant males will fight for the right to pass on their genes to those females, but the females don't really give a shit where the guy falls in the social hierarchy. Obviously humanity, we're completely different. Women are very selective who they will mate with, and they choose from the higher echelon of social hierarchy. So what that means is it's done two things essentially for the history of mankind. It's forced men to fight to be into the top 5% or what have you to get the best selection of the dating pool. And it's also forced women to only select from the very top of the top. Basically the best they can get is what a woman should be going for. And I fully agree with that. Number one, that's just the drive of humanity. But number two, I actually think that's a really good thing. That's why we have a lot of the incredible inventions that we have. Indoor plumbing, buildings, computers, cell phones, the internet. All this stuff is driven by primarily man's desire to impress women and to create status and wealth and different things, thinking that will help them get women. Really, if you think about it, this is a totally natural drive, and it makes sense. Women, they know, even if feminism has kind of changed the wiring on the surface level, deep down inside they always know that they have a lot of the qualities that primarily draw men have an expiry date attached, and they know that. I don't really care what year or what age we attach to it. It's just a thing. You can say it's 22, you can say it's 24, you can say it's 26. We all know it's at a fairly young side of the scale. And then in the dating pool, I don't mean as a person, but in the dating pool, her value in the dating pool diminishes once she gets beyond that wall, or once she hits the wall. So it makes perfect sense that women are going to try and capitalize on that while they have it. They're going to try and push for the absolute best that they can achieve in their life. It's very similar to the way a guy would do that. Hopefully, a masculine guy would do that in his own life. He's not just going to work at some shitty job where he's getting paid the same thing as 5 years ago. He should be always pushing forward, trying to achieve more, trying to achieve better, trying to improve. And it's kind of, I guess, the feminine version of that. So a lot of times on the thread, or when you come across online, guys bitching and complaining about this drive that women have and trying to put women down for it, it's usually just because the guy's been really hurt. At some point he's been hurt because he was in a relationship, perhaps he got into a rut, he got fat, he got lazy, he let himself go, and then the relationship fell apart because she didn't want to be with him anymore. Then a lot of bitterness and resentment kind of continues beyond that point in the guy. And that bitterness and that resentment really holds that guy back. It's quite common. Or you see online a lot of like incel kind of stuff where guys don't want to put the work into themselves, they don't want to accept that they're a problem, they don't want to improve themselves, and instead they just want to bitch and complain and blame somebody else. An extremely feminine behavior. And then, so you get these guys going online saying women should just, you know, have obligatory sex with them and all this other types of stuff, which is just absurdly pathetic. The solution to all of this is to actually develop your masculinity. If you're in a relationship and you get into a rut, hypergamy will constantly be in effect with your girlfriend or your wife. It doesn't matter if you're married, it doesn't matter if you have kids, if you guys are co-signing on a mortgage, none of it matters. She has this constant biological drive to be with somebody that's actually deserving of how incredible she is. The more feminine, the more incredible she is, the stronger that drive is going to be in her, because she should be at the very top of the evolutionary hierarchy, the social hierarchy. That's the way it should be working. So if she's with you, no. So if she's with you and you get into a rut, she will leave you for someone better. That's just the way it works. So the solution to that is don't get into that fucking rut. Work on yourself at all times. Improve yourself. If you know that, if you know that your life is going to fall apart if you get into the rut, it's very easy to see that in advance and avoid it. Go to the gym, watch what you eat, constantly improve your social skills, constantly improve your income earning potential. Not because she's attracted to your money, but because it means that you're pushing yourself harder. Don't settle into a job that you've been at for 20 years. You should be pushing, get a promotion, get a new division, start a new company, do whatever you need to do for you to be constantly pushing yourself. If you lose all your money, it doesn't matter, start over, but push even harder, push harder, push harder. No. That's the solution to hypergamy. Use it as a force inside of you to drive you to be a better version of yourself. That's really the way it should work. If you don't do that and you just sit down and you become bitter and resentful and you blame women for being the way they are, you'll never succeed in dating. You'll never succeed in dating, and you'll have really shitty relationships, both with men that know better than you and with women. You'll just push people away. So, highly recommend use daygame as a way to increase your masculinity. Use social interactions as a way to increase your social value and just become a better version of yourself. Constantly push yourself further and harder to improve. And that's I wouldn't say that's the antidote to hypergamy, but that's the way to respond properly to hypergamy. Women are incredible creatures. There's no reason to slag hate on them just because they are the way they are. And they are very different than us as masculine men. Hopefully that clears up things a little bit for you guys. Like I said before, if you haven't been added to the WhatsApp group, let Tusk know or myself, we'll get you added right away. I'm in Colombia for about another 3 weeks. There's a couple more slots available. They'll be in the description down below. As well, I think we're going to have a couple camps in San Diego, 2 boot camps probably coming in September, so look for follow-ups on that. And then I'll be back in Colombia in December and January, I believe. So we'll keep you posted on that as well. Thanks for your time, guys.